Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us is Ariane Chenard, and she is the Ayurveda health counselor at Puget Sound Family Health, located here in Tacoma, Washington. And she is speaking on a very important topic this evening on managing Pitta and inflammation. Thank you so much, Ariane, for being here.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here. I'll start by sharing my screen. Okay, do you all see it?
Okay. Yes, looks great.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for being here today. I will be indeed talking about how to manage Pitta dosha in Ayurveda and inflammation. They are related, and we'll learn more about that. My name is Ariane Chenard. You can call me Ariane, and indeed, I am an Ayurveda health counselor. You can find me downtown Tacoma, Washington at Puget Sound Family Health, or through my website, Elements.of.ayurveda.com. And I offer one-on-one consultation, or also I have two programs. I have one is how to manage your IBS in 3 months with Ayurveda, IBS being irritable bowel syndrome. And I have another one, which is over the course of 1 year, and it's an introduction to Ayurveda along with the season. It's called Seeking Balance, and it's all just a general approach of Ayurveda. Today, though, we are talking about inflammation, and you are at the right place if you have inflammation, maybe chronic inflammation, maybe joint pain and symptoms, fatigue. We'll go through some of the symptoms, or autoimmune disorders. Or maybe you want to know more about inflammation in general, and you might want to learn how to manage inflammation using natural approach, mainly diet and lifestyle. Today's presentation, what I want you to, what we will be focusing on and what I want you to remember is that what is inflammation, one thing, and how Ayurveda sees inflammation and the involvement of the doshas, or vital energy, in the inflammatory process, and how to manage Pitta dosha, because no matter how and inflammation manifests, Pitta dosha is always involved. So we'll talk about Pitta dosha mostly. And then we'll conclude, and I'll take questions coming from you in the present. So let's start. What is inflammation? Well, inflammation is not at all bad in itself. It's a crucial process in your body that is involved in healing. If you get a cut or a puncture or an irritant or a pathogen in your body, inflammation is the way your body is dealing with that and making sure it gobbles all the germs, bringing them out, and just repair the tissues. So for that, you will have inflammation, which is characterized by redness, heat, swelling, and pain. And these characteristics might vary depending on the type of inflammation, the person, etc. But these are general signs of inflammation. Again, acute inflammation is good because that's how the body repairs itself. But when it becomes problematic is as it becomes chronic, for example, rheumatoid arthritis. And if you want to know what is inflammation, where does it manifest, or what kind of a disorder are inflammatory disorders, every time you see itis, it refers to inflammation. Colitis, arthritis, bursitis, all these things, depending on where they are in the body, but they have an inflammatory component. Okay, so it's good when it's acute, it's bad when it becomes chronic, and it becomes chronic because of different reasons. An autoimmune disorder, for example, is your body constantly fighting against the cells of your the good cells of the body. And that's the inflammatory process, but not against an external pathogen, against your own body cells. And in the Ayurveda, there's this idea that autoimmune disorder are related to toxicity in the body that makes your body cell unable to recognize its own, and it starts attacking your own body cells. So toxins is a component. Autoimmune disorder, they vary a lot. It's another way to get chronic inflammation. Also, there's such thing as an acute inflammation that never quite got resolved. Maybe if you do exercise and you have a little bit of pain in a joint and you never quite let it heal properly, and you go back to doing exercises and it's regular, you would have that could become, okay, I'm just using this, that could become chronic. Or we know here in this modern day and age, we're not really used to dealing with pain and being uncomfortable. And for example, if we have a fever, that's the body's process for healing itself. Maybe there's a pathogen that needs to be taken care of. And fever in itself is good as long as it breaks at some point and not go beyond a certain point. 102 starts to be very high, and then you want to lower the fever, but below that, it's good that a fever does its own thing, because if you go about and again, like just lower a fever and make it prevent the body from healing itself, it could lead, and I'm not saying it does that every time, but it could lead to something more chronic. So again, that could be something here. And chronic allergies also could be a cause for chronic inflammation, because allergies, there's a lot of inflammatory I don't know, I'm missing a word, but inflammatory signals that come with allergies, and the body will start its thing, but unfortunately not really how we would appreciate it. Okay, okay. Signs of chronic inflammation. As I said, there's heat, redness, swelling, and pain. And at some point, if there's has been a lot of inflammation on an organ or a joint or something, there can be loss of function. For example, rheumatoid arthritis, the joint became all deformed and fused, basically, and there's definitely a loss of function. Persistent pain that you don't know exactly where it comes from might be a sign of chronic inflammation. Fatigue could be a sign too, and it makes sense if you understand that your body is fighting against something constantly, and that takes a lot of energy. It's not necessarily something that is good, but it can lead to fatigue. Digestive issues could be the cause of inflammation, and inflammation could cause digestive issues. Moodiness is also something that could happen. Frequent illnesses, because there's definitely something going on with the immune system. It's not optimal. And when weight gain with swelling, etc., that could also happen. Causes of inflammation, I mentioned that briefly. Toxins, either in food or the environment, maybe a polluted environment, polluted water, or food that had contain pesticides, herbicides, and things like that, or preservatives. Toxicity in lifestyles as well. Alcohol consumption is very hot. Smoking, overworking, being very stressed, will cause inflammation. Obesity can cause inflammation for different aspects of obesity that could impact a different aspect of health. Intense exercise too often. There's a lot of heat that is created, maybe some tear and wound in your body that not necessarily get healed properly before you start doing exercise again. Autoimmune disorders, obviously, because of chronic inflammation. And diet plays an important role. So a diet that is high in added sugars, refined carbohydrate, processed and fried food, and unhealthy fat can increase the chances for you to have inflammation. With all these causes, with all these disorders, inflammatory disorders, with all these different manifestations of the same thing that we call inflammation, how do we get about to figure out how to deal with our inflammation? Well, that is where the Ayurveda is very strong, because it has a unique approach to health that considered every individual as a unique individual. No two people are the same, and the symptoms for the same condition will differ between two individuals, as well as the cause that we will have to tackle and how we bring balance back. So now I'll be talking a little bit about Ayurveda. Maybe you're not familiar with what Ayurveda is. It's an ancient system of medicine. It is thousands of years old. It comes from India. And the word Ayurveda itself means the science of life and longevity. It's a search for balance with diet and lifestyle. And it's mostly preventative medicine more than heroic medicine like Western medicine. It's a science of habit. You can stay healthy or get healthy with good habits, just as you don't necessarily know that some of your habits could lead to a disease on the long run. It's also a folk medicine. Everybody can practice Ayurveda. And in fact, the idea with Ayurveda is that everybody ends up knowing what is good for them. I am here as an Ayurveda health counselor, as a guide at the beginning to lead you, to make you understand what your constitution is, what your imbalances are. But ultimately, the goal is for you to understand what kind of food is good for me, what kind of lifestyle, what can I add and take out of my routine to make myself better. And it focuses highly on digestion. I am myself specializing in digestive issues, because digestion is where everything starts. With poor digestion, it's hard to stay healthy on the long run. There are a few fundamental concepts in Ayurveda, one being that likes increase and opposites balance. In the case of inflammation, if we take the example of heat, there's a certain heat in our body with inflammation. If we keep adding more heat with our diet, with our lifestyle, we will create an imbalance. If, for example, I have a tendency towards inflammation, and in the summer season, when it's hot, there's more heat, and then maybe my diet is very spicy, I like spicy food, and then I drink red wine, all these things accumulate, and over time, they create an imbalance, and in this example, inflammation might be made worse. You can, however, balance excess heat by going the opposite way. You want cooling thing, and we do that naturally. Like if we're hot, we'll take off our jacket or drink a lemonade, or like that's things that we do naturally. That's all Ayurveda for you. But sometimes we're missing a few things, and we don't really pay attention to how we feel, or how we don't necessarily understand how food affects us. So in this case of too much heat, maybe I would need in the summer to change my diet, go towards more a cooling diet, reduce my alcohol consumption. Maybe if I usually go for a run in the middle of the day under the hot sun, maybe changing and go for a swim instead, or putting my runs early in the morning or later at night. All these little things help balance this imbalance in heat. And there's the three vital energies in Ayurveda: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. I mentioned Pitta a little bit, but there's also Vata. And these you have to understand as concepts. Vata is this idea of movement, everything that moves in the body, respiration, taking a big breath, circulation, the blood going everywhere, food, traveling along the digestive tract, or elimination. All this is coming from Vata dosha. Pitta is heat. It's transformation, it's metabolism. And between all three doshas, it's the only one that has heat. And that's why it is always involved, no matter how the inflammation manifests. Since one of characteristic of inflammation is heat, Pitta is there. But is it the cause of inflammation, or is it responding to another dosha? That is the question that we have to assess in Ayurveda. So Vata is immaterial, it's movement. Pitta is heat and transformation. Kapha is structure. Everything you see, bones, nail, hair, every lubrication as well, that's all Kapha dosha. And when you have a lot of swelling in inflammation, that comes from Kapha dosha. So, and in inflammation, then all the dosha, Pitta dosha is always involved, but the other doshas might be involved as well. Pitta might be out of balance, but might be out of balance because of Vata dryness and roughness in the joint that causes heat. Or it could big swelling because there's Pitta, too much Pitta, and Kapha is trying to come to the rescue to cool things down. There's a mix of the doshas and how they influence each other. And obviously the cause of inflammation will vary between individuals. How do we determine what to do then? Well, we go toward the basics, because we don't necessarily need in Ayurveda to name things with the proper medical term. We need to qualify them, to give them qualities. Heat or hot, if it's too much hot, we need to balance with cold, etc. So all these qualities, we call them gunas. There's 20 of them in Ayurveda. And they are organized in pair of opposites that measure something different. And when we qualified, okay, someone has inflammation with a lot of swelling and redness, we could say, for example, oh, there's some sharpness, some hot, but there's also a lot of wet quality because there's a lot of swelling. So we depending on the situation, we use these qualities that will give us information in telling us which dosha or vital energy is responsible for what is going on. And beyond just inflammation, like we look at the body in its totality. And then we know, okay, I need to balance this dosha or that dosha, and with what qualities should I use to do that? And how we do that is a lot by food. I think I missed that. Okay. Using food is one of the first things we do to balance ourselves in Ayurveda. And we choose food according to taste and also the qualities of the foods. But very important, the 6 tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, astringent. They all have different qualities and effect on the body. And they will be more or less useful to balance someone, or they may aggravate someone. That's why we need to have a personalized diet, or at least general idea of what is good for us. Because if we have inflammation, we do not want taste like the sour taste. We want to limit the salt intake in our diet, and pungency, which is spices and very hot things. All these tastes are Pitta aggravating. On the contrary, the sweet taste, which is not sugar, refined sugar, by the way, it's more like everything that is nourishing to the body. The sweet taste is cooling. The bitter taste is very cold, in fact, and is great for Pitta dosha, and also has an effect on the liver, and it cleanses the liver. a very good taste. And astringent taste is also cooling. And astringency is not a taste per se, it's more a sensation. It's very drying. If you take something astringent, your mouth is going to feel very dry. And for an inflammation that is very, that has a lot of swelling, this is a great thing. Astringency as a taste for food, but also if I have a big swelling for whatever reason, witch hazel, for example, or rose water have both astringency and are cool, so they could help externally for reducing inflammation. We also work with the qualities of food. Again, it goes with which qualities are out of balance in your body. You want to balance with the opposite quality. So I had 20 gunas in one of my graph earlier. Now I just put some of the main that relate to food. And if you have imbalance in hot, too much hot, the summer, etc., you want cooling things, and here are a few examples. If there's a lot of swelling and in general you have a lot of water retention or things like that, you want drier food. But if your condition is more dry, that leads to inflammation, you want to balance with wet. Food is medicine in Ayurveda. We start with always digestion and diet. But there's no generalization. Today, I can't tell you things that are good for everyone because Ayurveda doesn't work like that, but I'll still give you a few hints of what you can do in the summer to balance Pitta and inflammation. Not everything is equally good or bad for everyone. It really depends on your constitution, on your imbalance, etc. And of course, food can heal or help you balance yourself, just as it can make things worse if it's not appropriate. And that is why it's important to understand how food can affect you and what are your symptoms, what qualities you are looking for. Ayurveda has that. It's an individualized approach. We always start by determining a person's constitution, and with that also a person's imbalance. What are the symptoms, how they manifest, what are the patterns? And we also always want to know possible cause, because it's not, with Ayurveda, we don't just deal with symptoms to make them disappear. We want them to hide them. We want them to disappear because we took out the cause of the imbalance in the first place. I would give you a recommendation for your own conditions if I were to meet in person. That's not the case right now, but I can give you a few ideas of what to do to manage Pitta and inflammation in this season that is particularly aggravating. General summer imbalances, Pitta will be imbalanced because of its hot nature. So you will have imbalances that go in the qualities of hot and sharp. Hot emotion, anger, irritability. We all know that person that just explode in anger or is so irritable, and that is made worse in the summer or after a barbecue with eating red meat and drinking wine. Sometimes people can become a bit more impatient. Skin rashes and eruption is something that we'll see in the summer, and inflammation can be made worse. Vata imbalances can also be present in the summer, more maybe towards dryness, constipation, dry skin, hair, etc. How we would want to deal with that, especially when talking about inflammation and Pitta, is that we want to avoid or limit things that are really heating. And I put there red meat, wine, and alcohol in general. It's very heating. Avoid or limit spices or pungent taste, sour taste, and limit the intake of salt. All these are very heating as well. And you want to get food that are more in the category of sweet, bitter, and astringent tastes. Sweet taste, dairy, or avocado, things like that are kind of nourishing and a bit bland, but cooling. Bitter, all the leafy vegetables, everything green, and astringent, lentils, pomegranate juice, cranberry juice, these are astringent. Of course, you want to drink and stay hydrated, cool, soothing food and beverage in the summer. And you can, like I just mentioned, a few things, dandelion, very cooling, very good for the liver, very good for pitta, chicory, cucumbers, melon, cilantro, things like that. This is just a brief overview, but you can find more of an outline for an pitta pacifying and anti-inflammatory diet. I have a handout, very easy to download on my website, elements.of.ayurveda.com/resources. On the point of view of lifestyle, you want to cool down. The same thing, like you can bring heat in your body through your diet, but also through your lifestyle. And you want to balance that with cooling activities. Instead of running and midday, go for a swim. Limit sun exposure, reduce intense exercise in the summer, maybe. Keep that more for fall and winter or spring. Or early morning, evening, drink a lot of fluid. And something that is very pacifying to pitta is time in nature. Pitta people love time in nature, and time by the water or in the water in the summer is great for cooling the body and the mind. You might also want some herbal supplements. If diet and lifestyle, Ayurveda always starts with diet, lifestyle, but sometimes you need an extra boost with herbs. And here are a few herbal actions that would be useful in terms of dealing with inflammation. Of course, anti-inflammatory. One that comes to mind right away is turmeric. And also ginger, although these being anti-inflammatory, they might aggravate pitta dosha. So you have to be careful, and it depends on the person. Everything depends in Ayurveda. Anti-allergic, if your inflammation comes from allergies. Refrigerant, if really you have just too much heat. Relaxant and nervine, if stress is something that affects you. Adaptogen, again, if you're dealing with stress. Immune calming, immune modulator, if your immune system is not acting as it should. You could have diaphoretics to help you cool down. So many herbs that you could use. And I'm just gonna mention right now, I'm finishing a class this summer. I just have a few things to do, and becoming an Ayurveda Ayurveda clinical herbalist. I can't keep that in mind. And I offer, thank you. I offer a full intake because I have mentoring sessions to offer. I offer a full Ayurvedic intake for $80 instead of $130. And at the end, you get a personalized herbal formulation for that fits your needs and your situation. So if you're interested, you can contact me on the chat or through my website after. So that was this presentation. To conclude, I just want to repeat that inflammation is not bad in itself. It is a normal and important process, but it can become problematic if it becomes chronic, and that's where the problem lies. Pitta dosha is always involved when there is inflammation, especially in the summer, because it's a pitta aggravating season. So you might want to always keep that in mind. And you can definitely learn how to manage inflammation naturally with an appropriate diet and lifestyle using Ayurveda. And if you need help with that, I'm here. I'm an Ayurveda health counselor, and my services, I have individual sessions, and I offer programs how to manage IBS, and also an introduction to Ayurveda over a year following the seasons. Thank you very much. If you have questions, it's going to be my pleasure to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Hi, Ariane. This is Kevin and Verena. Would you please put the last slide up with your contact information?
Yes.
Just a little longer.
Yeah.
I was going to ask for
Me?
that also.
Okay, yes, pleasure.
Ooh, and we have a question in the chat box. What is the cost of your appointments?
Usually it starts at $130 for the intake that lasts an hour and a half usually. Sorry about that. And the follow-up sessions are $80, but this I have these, I think, 2 openings left for my mentorship part of my class, and I offer this full intake for $80, but that you have to come directly through me. If you go through Puget Sound Family Health, it's just going to be a regular intake.
Wonderful, thank you.
So should we contact you by phone, the phone number there, or just use your email to contact you
Let me
directly?
Okay, I'll stop that, and I'll put my it's Elements. Oops. You can contact me there, or if you go on my website and go with a resource service link, and when you register, if you mention Marlene's presentation and herbalism mentorship, I would give you the $80 price.
Where are you located? Around what city?
I'm in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we can sign up with you through this elementsofayurveda.gmail.com. Is that correct?
Yes, if you're interested, you can send me an email and I'll send you all the links to register and to request a session with me.
Okay, thank you.
And
Thank you.
for this mentorship, there's a little bit more paperwork involved. That's why the price is lower. But you still have the full intake.
Direct to her.
You get your constitution, imbalances, recommendation, Ayurvedic recommendation, and personalized formula.
Thank you very much.
That's a great deal.
There's a question about suggestion you have to get started before meeting with you. Do you mean for Ayurvedic lifestyle, or Kim, if you want to?
Hi there. Yeah, I just asked if there was an opportunity to kind of, get started. I don't know what dosha I am, right?
Yeah. Well, there is always, like, you mean like starting with a dosha quiz, maybe just for general information?
Oh, sure. That's right. I'm checking out your.
Yeah. Well, usually, like, we start all at once, like because you can do a dosha quiz and it's gonna give you some information, but when I do an intake, it goes much deeper because I do follow-ups, and it's not always the same that you get as doing a dosha quiz.
Understandable. Okay.
And the advantage of meeting me at Puget Sound Family Health in Tacoma is that it's in person. Otherwise, we do online, and that's good too. I get plenty of information. I need, in this case, to get some pictures from my clients, but it's also a very convenient way of doing sessions.
And definitely interactive too.
Yeah. Is there any question about inflammation in general? Does any of you have some inflammatory issues or problems that maybe flare up in the summer more than usual?
You know, I do towards the end of summer,
Mm.
and it was like the light bulb went off in my head during this presentation. I was like, aha, that's what it is. I've been trying to figure it out for years. I start to get digestive issues, and like we were saying, it's probably just like the buildup of inflammation, and then it just wreaks havoc.
Yeah, yeah, the end of the summer, because it's like increased like over the whole summer, that's when Pitta is most aggravated, and Vata is getting kind of aggravated at this time, and then worse in the fall. Like depending on the season, the doshas will start acting up. You need to live according to the season, knowing that. So you do prevention and you do recuperation. You prevent, you plan for the summer, and you take care of your liver, you do cooling things, and then you spend the summer, and then you heal what has gone out of balance, and you balance Pitta again, and yeah, that's how you do Ayurveda.
I love it. I love how it's preventative measures for optimal health.
Yeah, definitely. It's very preventative medicine, Ayurveda is. Yeah, and it goes very well along if you have treatments with conventional medicine. Ayurveda is very useful still because it has to do with diet and lifestyle, so it's very complementary. And Western medicine has many qualities, but prevention is not one of them. And actually, when you get diagnosed with an inflammatory disorder or something, like with a disease, you are at the stage 5 out of 6 of the disease process in Ayurveda. And all these stages prior, you can prevent. And stage 1 is just a few digestive imbalance. Stage 2 is becoming more problematic, and all the way to manifestation of a disease. Stage 6 is complication, loss of function, etc. Ayurveda can't do much at that point, and even at stage 5 can palliate a little bit, but the more you go towards the disease process, the further you go along, the harder it gets. And that's why prevention is all about, Ayurveda is all about prevention. If you have good digestion and you avoid all digestive issues, well, you can avoid so many diseases on the long run.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. I love Ayurveda. It's just, it's natural. It makes sense. It's kind of a bit strange at first, maybe, because it's not words we're used to or understanding things how we are used to, but it's just great, and it works, and it's natural because it becomes instinctive after some time how you do things.
It becomes a part of your healthy lifestyle, and it makes so much sense going with the seasons. And I feel that you know, several of our ancestors kind of knew and noticed that going with the seasons were best, and now we're able to get back to our roots.
Yes, well, our ancestors were living by with the season. They had no choice, really. And the season were there providing what was kind of the best at time. Like in the spring, all these little sprouting things and bitter, like dandelion and things, they are all great for the season. And all the berries and cooling stuff like cucumber and things like that in the summer are great for the summer. And then like you're feeling more like rich food and comfort food for the fall and winter, that's great as well. But if you don't change your diet at all through the season and you still for some reason eat big heavy stew in the middle of July, it just does not feel that great, and it's gonna affect you. So it's also part of Ayurveda is following the season and make.
Ariane,
Yes.
I had a question. Are any of the nut families, walnuts, peanuts, pecans, more inflammatory than others?
I could not speak for all the nuts. They are heating and they are oily. Both are pitta aggravating. Peanuts, which are actually not nuts, they are
Not nuts anyway, yeah.
are maybe worse than many. Almonds are more sweet and cooling. Almonds are cooling. Something like pine nuts, very heating. Walnut, it's astringent, but it's oily. So there's a few like that. There's a few differences. Almonds are kind of cooling nuts.
Yeah, I have a whole food plant-based diet. And so to get proteins, I use part of the protein comes from nuts. And so that's what I was kind of wondering if they had any sort of negative side effects, because I do have a lot of different nuts, on a daily basis. So,
Okay.
yep, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah. Well, some are more heating than others. I would need to go a little deeper to answer more precisely. But in general, nuts, everything that is oily tends to aggravate Pitta dosha, because Pitta is fire and a little bit of water. The water is like oily, like it's this idea of oiliness. Yeah. So, and that's why fried food are Pitta aggravating as well.
Yeah, no, we don't have any fried foods at all. It's
Yeah.
it's not part of our diet. So
Okay. What is it called, this diet?
it's a whole food plant-based diet. So we're just about vegan. We're almost we'll have fish maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
Wait a minute, somebody takes us to a restaurant.
Yeah, when we go out to eat,
Okay.
2 times a year. But other than that, there's no meat.
Okay.
It's all various types of salads and kale and soy and grains. And,
Okay. Like a source of protein that would be cooler for summer would be legumes, for example.
Be what?
Legumes like lentils and beans and things like that.
Yep, we got those.
Yeah, might be more appropriate in greater quantity in the summer than the more warming nuts. The oiler, the more aggravating to Pitta they are. But again, like when we're talking about inflammation and Pitta, not everyone has the same type of inflammation. And I don't know your personal case. Some people will be fine. The summer season is great for them and they can have all the things they want, but another season will be worse for them. So it really depends on the person.
Yeah, I went to the lab that does the workups for the Dr. Wright's clinic here locally. I went in and did the blood test where they do, I think, 400 different types of food allergies. And oddly enough, I get inflammation from turmeric. I have inflammation from almonds, but I don't from, according to the test, pecans and walnuts and even peanuts don't bother according to that blood test at that time. There's a lot of things that cause inflammation in my body, according to the blood workup that they did, that most normal people don't have a problem with. It's kind of funny because it's sort of the reverse. Oh, well, I can't have cashews. I'm not supposed to eat cashews, but I can have other things that would bother other people, but I can't have the cashews. So it's kind of interesting the way it worked out.
Yeah, well, it's always the individual is going to be unique. And even if there's something that everybody in the world, it works for them, there's one person and for which it's not going to work.
Yeah,
And
because my wife used to use, back when we were eating meat, made turmeric chicken, baked turmeric chicken, and I really enjoyed it. And anything with turmeric on, I mean, you can put it on anything, and I'll just gobble it down. And so I kind of found out if I really like a certain food, I'm probably allergic to it, or it'll cause inflammation in me. So if I have sort of a so-so, well, it's okay, I can eat it, and I don't get much of a thrill out of it, then that's what I should be eating. So it's kind of like, oh, you really like this? Yes, I just don't eat that anymore.
that's too bad, because
Yeah,
sometimes,
it is.
yeah, sometimes the taste that you feel, the craving that you feel are a sign of what the body needs. But sometimes if you are out of balance, you will start craving things that are not good for you. So again, it depends.
Yeah.
Did you eat, because turmeric is anti-inflammatory, but in excess will be pitta aggravating.
Mhm.
So that, like, were you taking a lot of it? Because
No.
okay. So yeah, some people, it's just
I wish
doesn't-
I could say yes, and then I could just back down from it, but it's just lightly on the surface of something, or would
Once in a
just
while.
sprinkle it on something a little bit, and I just love the taste of it. So, but it wasn't an everyday, massive amounts of it. So,
Okay.
but it showed up in the blood workup. So,
Mm. Yeah, there are other things that are anti-inflammatory. I could do a little, I'm still, let me see here. I can do just anti-inflammatory foods.
oh, what about oil of oregano?
Ooh, very heating, very, very
Very
heating.
heating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or-
because during COVID, we were both taking that, and still are, and we never got sick. And we
Oh
were
yeah,
around
because
people that were
it's
sick.
antiviral. It's very strong antiviral. Yeah, it has amazing property. But if you have pitta aggravation, I would not recommend oil of oregano. But it's very antiviral, antimicrobial.
Yeah.
What
And
about Boswellia?
Boswellia. I don't know this one specifically. Let me see.
If I remember correctly, I believe it is
I have
inflammatory. Yeah.
let me see. But Boswellia, yeah, anti-inflammatory, blood thinner, vasodilator, vulnerary. Yeah.
So
But
would that be warming?
no, they say cool, cold, but it's pungent, so it's kind of stimulating but cold. And it's pitta and kapha pacifying, vata aggravating. So you have to be mindful of that. For anti-inflammatory effect for food, I'm seeing things like aloe vera juice, very anti-inflammatory, beets, blueberries, broccoli.
I have blueberries every day.
Yeah, these are great.
And
Burdock,
broccoli.
melons, even like cayenne pepper, very anti-inflammatory, but extremely aggravating to pitta dosha. So not everything that is anti-inflammatory is pitta pacifying. You have to be mindful of that as well.
Now that's Elizabeth, could you say that again? Is it Boswellia, or it's not ashwagandha? Is it?
Boswellia.
Boswellia. How do you spell that? B-A-S?
EOS.
B-O-S. Thank you. Keep going.
W-E-L-L-I-A. It's
What
Frank.
about quercetin? And is that aggravating to pitta? Quercetin. Quercitin. That's a antihistamine, anti-inflammatory.
Well, is it a supplement?
Yes, it's
A plant pigment, a flavonoid. It's
Okay.
found in lots of plants and foods. It's also a supplement.
and the chemical if you take CoQ10, your body converts it into quercetin. So it's best taking quercetin instead of CoQ10. But yes,
Anti-inflammatory. Yeah, I don't know this one specifically, but if it's said anti-inflammatory, but again, there's no guarantee that it's gonna work for you. Like you have to have guides, and then you do the work of trying.
Right.
Yeah.
and that's where you come in.
Yeah, I'm there. That's what I do. I really help the person understand their constitution. Are you more Pitta, Vata, Kapha, Kapha Pitta, Kapha Vata, and the type of imbalance, and your the what you tend to have for imbalance. It gives me even more information, and then I can guide you towards appropriate food choice. But it's still for you to try, and it does not mean it's gonna work all the time. But even if it does not work, it gives me even more information. But if you react, or if you have a lot of inflammation or allergies or things like that, like I'm looking at the body as a whole. Like, okay, you have inflammation, but what's going on other than that? How is your digestion? What do you react to? And I maybe need to balance a certain system in your body, help you balance a system before you can get the result for something else. And I usually start with digestion right away. That's the first goal. In fact, is removing toxins with balancing digestion, then balancing digestion. So they go both hand in hand. And once that is done, we can go deeper into resolving systemic problems, like maybe joint issues or skin issues or things like that.
Well, thank you. I've sent you an email because I'd like to sign up for an appointment. And I appreciate you offering us this overview. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here. I'll send you the information.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. That's
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you,
Well,
Ariane.
Kevin,
Well, thank you,
Ariane.
Susan, too, but
Yeah,
thank
but
you,
Ariane.
Ariane. Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice presentation. Thank you.
Yep.
I got the names mixed up. I'm sorry.
Thank you for being here.